on this page. Okay, it is going. So Andrew, okay, I see you, so that's great. Andrew, you're up first.
All right, thank you, Didi. I'll hit my little timer on things. So the cover slide already covered sort of my background on things, so I'll just jump directly into the content. What you'll see is basically a bunch of references to things. So I'll explain the reference and then talk a little bit about an example of what that means. So in this case, I'm talking about the promise and perils of data linkages. Many of us know about the general value of linked data, which this is a math reference that the actual function is greater than the sum of its parts. A lot of times when we're dealing with lots of different data sets, it's really useful for us to have these other contexts and these other pieces of information to make a data set more robust or be able to do types of analyses that you couldn't do with the two pieces of information alone. Now, the challenge here, next slide, of this is that there's a lot of perils of that. And this is a linguistics reference to the Rosetta Stone. You can see the hieroglyphic Greek and sort of English language version of the letter M. Trying to make sure that you find out the proper linkages between these data make it really difficult to make these data sets work nicely together. Next slide. Now, a literature reference to Lord of the Rings. The promise of unique IDs is a way to sort of circumvent this process, allows you to actually make those linkages without these really complicated joins and logic to try and figure out what's going on. The downside, however, of this, next slide, is that they are not always as unique as you'd like them to. So in this is actually just an example of a unique entity identifier, which is from the sam.gov. For a lot of different data that come from government sources, they're trying to merge all of these together. What you can see here is that using Department of Education data on post-secondary degree stuff, you can see there's one unique entity identifier and multiple IPEDS IDs, where if you care about University of Pittsburgh, it's actually lots of different campuses. And trying to figure out what that looks like can be challenging. So that's kind of the short. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, next up is Madeleine Wallace. Oh, hold on.
Yes, in today's digital world, generative AI is changing how we work across many areas. My colleague, Vladimir Lopez, who is here, and I want to bring this topic to the American Evaluation Conference. We're suggesting a session where we can show what generative AI can do and talk about the ethical, legal, and methodological challenges posed by generative AI. We propose 3 to 4 companies or experts show the use of generative AI in program evaluation. They will show us how it can help us find important indicators and outcomes, deal with big and complex data, and give clear recommendations. But, you know, this is just theory, right? These are real tools that can make our work better, faster, and cheaper. But using generative AI is not without its problems. We'll have to think carefully about the ethics, how to avoid bias, and how to make sure our methods are sound. Our session will include discussions on these topics. We want to help everyone understand how to use generative AI in a way that's transparent and useful. You are looking here just an example that Vladimir and I developed. This session is also about working together. It's a chance for us who evaluate programs, people who build technology. We need to share our ideas for new ways to work together, right? We have to get ready to the future, where technology and human skills combine to do more than we can do now. I hope this is a great presentation so that you guys can join us and submit your papers and your tools. So this is just an example. You see, I was able to talk in less than 2 minutes. I cannot believe it. I'm amazed by my accomplishment. Yes, this is a good way to start Monday.
Thank you, Madeleine. Okay. Okay, next we have Ann Hutchins.
Thank you for having me. You're going to see this animation up on the screen here that is a citation network of cancer immunotherapy papers. The green ones are basic research, the red ones are clinical research, and you can see the citations and the knowledge kind of flowing through here. Now, this lets us do not just retrospective analysis on important applied outcomes, it also lets us do predictive analytics. And you might ask why. The reason you might use predictions in evaluation is that progress might not be obvious early on in a project or endeavor, but there might still be a need for timely decisions. And in this situation, if you have an accurate enough system, predictions can serve as a proxy, an early proxy for important applied outcomes of the program. We can make these predictions at a number of different levels because we have very refined data. We can predict whether basic or applied research articles are going to inform and be cited by future clinical papers, whether they're going to inform innovation and stimulate innovative work that gets patented and cites that earlier scientific article. At the citation level, we can ask whether an individual reference is likely to represent a substantive citation that where the earlier paper informed key stages like the inception, design, or execution of the main body of work in a paper. And you can view this animation as a scientific topic cluster. We can make predictions at the cluster level too. We can ask early on in the cluster's formation by looking at time series data, whether that cluster is likely to inform a transformative breakthrough or yield an FDA-approved drug in the future. And cluster level analysis is super exciting because you can ask these questions before the key papers are published. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have a couple of speakers, so there you go.
So this is Anand. Thank you. All of us have different views of complexity. The notion of complexity we are going to be using is based on Ralph Stacey's work. And what he did was he drew a two by two sort of picture where the horizontal axis is certainty about technology or knowledge or information, and the vertical axis is about values. So in evaluation, when it comes to values. And so when you are close to certainty and close to agreement, you have a simple problem. When you're at the other end, you have chaos, and where we are in terms of complexity is right in the middle. So that's what we are going to talk about. And over to Lisa.
Yes, so so what you can do here with complex evaluations is to begin to take logic models and theories of change in them as computational simulation models. So you could begin playing that, where I formalize this aspect of Gretchen Jordan's logic model of the workings of team science using system dynamics. And through this formalization, what you can get is an output which you can see the logical extensions of the assumptions that are built within the model. And from that point, you can also go in and iterate the model, experimenting with different types of feedback, and also experimenting with how different parameter values are going to affect the outcomes of the logic model. So here, the slider was altered, and what you're seeing is the outflow of the model being revised. So as the slider is modified, then the graphical representation can be viewed as modified as well. And so as you have more agreement on requirements that are attended to complexity, as well as a more agreement along the axis of technology, what you can begin to get are better representations, basically kicking the tires on logic models and theories of change. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Josh Schnell and Jeff Alexander.
You're on mute, Jeff. Jeff's
Thank
talking.
you. Sorry, yes, I needed to go at this. Okay. Yeah, I'll be speaking for both me and Josh, and we'll both be in the breakout room. But we're thinking about organizing a session around the idea of research infrastructure and instruments. Now, research infrastructure is popularly, I think, thought of as like large user facilities. So we recently did projects looking at the value of the International Space Station, the value of neutron scattering facilities for neutron science for NIST, But instrumentation infrastructure can have a lot of different meanings, and one challenge is even trying to figure out what do we mean when we use these terms. So, for example, shared data sets might be infrastructure. Testbed networks are network infrastructure if you're in the computing realm. So we've looked at the various aspects of this, and a lot of the evaluation does tend to focus more on the impact assessment. But we're also interested in then trying to determine out how do you optimize, or what is the role of infrastructure in evaluating scientific programs or scientific research. So one thing that we did for the International Space Station, we were given the charge of trying to identify the economic value of the space station. Like, why do we even have a space station? Should we keep funding it is a key issue. And we looked at all the research outputs and found different ways to essentially quantify the outputs in different dimensions. One interesting output of that report was informing NASA that the country that had the most publications that were based on research experiments conducted on the space station was China. It wasn't that China was doing the experiments on the space station, but by their references, you could see that they were basically taking the work by others on the space station and using it in their research. On the issue of the neutron scattering facilities, these facilities are used for all kinds of material science interrogation, advanced work in industry. So we had to do a lot of industry-specific case studies, in addition to looking at the user lists from the facilities themselves and determining who visits the facilities, why they're doing it, what are the outputs. So basically, our idea is exploring this idea of what is infrastructure, what is its role in the science system for countries and regions, and then also how can that inform the evaluation of investments in research and development.
Okay, thank you. So this again is all of our speakers and their talks, and also their affiliations. So thank you for giving us some things to think about as we all get ready for AEA 2024. So we're going to go into breakout rooms now. I will have, everybody will be able to pick their own breakout room to attend. I will suggest, however, that speakers please go to the one where your name is so that those who have questions or want to have a discussion with you can find you there. If anybody has an issue, like a technical issue, you can come back to the main room. You should have the ability to do that. And I will try to help you as best I can. And then at the end, I will ask that everybody does come back for some closing remarks. I will plan to close the breakout rooms at 12:50 Eastern time. So about 28 minutes. Okay, thank you, everyone. Does everybody see the rooms?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I don't. Where do I go to see them?
There should be an
right side.
there should be like a breakout room button if
On your
something
function bar at the bottom, there should be now something that says breakout rooms. It's got 4 little.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Josh.
Sure.
I don't know what it looks like on your end right now. Okay, and I
Thank
will
you.
stop the recording. Thank you.